but he had managed only a few awkward thrusts before vertigo overcame him and he vomited the plump, half-chewed bodies of brandied cherries all over the nuptial linen that Valentina had embroidered with her own hands over a period of many weeks. In the months and years to come, Valentina would look back almost wistfully on that night, as Marius's cherry-fueled ardor was the only sign of passion or even interest in her that he had ever shown. And while it was true that she'd simply gone from one loveless home to another, that didn't mean she didn't feel the absence of love. Doña Valentina had no acceptable name for the longing she felt, and no idea how to soothe it, so she filled her days irritating their few servants with constant correction, and existing in a state of relentless dissatisfaction. That was why she went down to the kitchen that morning. Not once, but twice. The cook had grown increasingly erratic as her son's obsession with the playwright Quiteria Escárcega became known, so Doña Valentina made sure to check on her every morning. That day, as she came down the stairs, feeling the heat rise around her, she was greeted by the unmistakable odor of burning bread and nearly swooned with the pleasure of something tangible to complain about. But the cook wasn't there. Valentina intended to remain, sweating in the heat from the fireplace, her anger rising to a furious boil, refining a long rant against wastefulness, negligence, and the cook's general character. But a knock at the door echoed above, and Valentina knew it might be someone who wished to speak to her husband about his olives. It might even be an invitation. Unlikely, but just the hope was enough to make her move. There was no one else to answer the door at Casa Ordoño. Her husband had made it clear they could afford no additional servants, and that she was lucky to have a cook and a scullion to help her around the house. There was nothing to do but set aside her rage and stomp back up the steps, dabbing at her moist face with her sleeve. When she marched down the stairs again, a letter from her father stuffed unread into her sleeve. She heard the cook nattering about something to the squat lump of a scullion girl who smelled of damp, and who was always stumbling about the house with her eyes on her graceless feet. "Agueda!" Valentina said as she burst into the kitchen, voice vibrating with the righteousness of a good scold. "Can you tell me why you see fit to waste my husband's fortune and my time by once again burning the bread?" The cook looked at her dully, sullen eyes red from crying over her foolish son, then turned her gaze to the table at the center of the kitchen, where the bread waited in its black pan. Even before Valentina looked, she felt her body flush, the likelihood of her own humiliation coming on like a sudden storm. The bread sat, a little golden cushion in its iron bed, its top high, glossy and golden brown, perfectly risen, perfectly baked. Doña Valentina wanted to examine the bread, poke it with her finger and declare it a liar. She had seen that same bread only minutes ago, blackened and ruined, its dome of crust collapsed by heat. And she knew it was not another loaf drawn from the fire to replace the first because she recognized that iron pan with its slightly dented corner. It wasn't possible. She had been gone only a few minutes. They're playing a trick, Valentina thought. The stupid cook and the stupid kitchen girl are trying to goad me to get a reaction and make me look a fool. She would not give them the satisfaction. "You have burned the bread before," she said lightly, "and I have no doubt you will do it again. See to it that our midday meal is not late to table." "Will Don Marius be home to dine, Signora?" Valentina considered slapping the cook's smug face. "I don't believe so," she said brightly. "But I will have 2 friends joining me. What are you preparing?" "The pork, Signora. Just as you asked." "No," Valentina corrected. "It was the quail I requested. The pork is for tomorrow, of course." Again the cook stared at her, her eyes hard as stubs of coal. "Of course, Signora." Valentina knew very well that she had requested the pork. She had planned the meals for the household a week prior, as she always did. But let the cook remember that this was her home, and she was never to be the butt of the joke. After Doña Valentina